Oh yes, now this will be a familiar sight if you've been subscribed to my channel for a while. This Nissan Micra on that spot in this garage. And that's because this is the very place we first saw it on the day it was dumped on me by a mystery subscriber. And what a day that was. What an irritating day, because this car would not start, so I had to push it out through the garage door over there somewhere and dump it on the gravel, where it remained for a little while. Since then I have fiddled around and now it starts every now and then when it feels like it, but today it felt like it. The starter motor actually engaged, no trouble whatsoever. The battery had retained its charge. It really was quite a treat. In other news, you will know that as well as fiddling around under there and in there a bit, and indeed over there a bit, I have been cultivating some plants which have decided to make this car their home. There's this fella here who's growing nicely. We have this moss here, but I am concerned they're not going to get enough to drink here in the garage. No rain will come in, so I've had to think outside the box and get them this. Here you are, drink up, lads. Yeah, lovely. I'll be working at Kew Gardens before you know it. In other news, there are signs of a hostile takeover because a family of spiders has moved in to the offside wing mirror. Oh, you've all vanished now, haven't you, spiders? You've all got camera shy. They are down there somewhere, many of them in fact, and frankly, I think if they're going to deliver my car, they should pay me rent. What do you think? £1 a month? Okay, so it's a few days later and I'm just getting the car out the garage and onto the driveway so I can do a bit of work on it. First order of business is don't hit the other car. That's very important. Now, will it go into reverse? Come on, yes. It wouldn't earlier. And then, once I've got the car onto the driveway, I can finally jack it up and have a look at those brakes. Right, how's that? Fine. Well, there's certainly plenty of water dripping out the exhaust. Look at that lot. Okay, I'm going to start by jacking up the front right wheel using this scissor jack, but before I do that I want to make sure the sill is strong enough to support the weight of the vehicle, because it has been welded here, this black section, prior to my ownership, so I know it went rusty. So let's have a look. I'll give you the best view I can. Well, that bit doesn't look terrible. Yeah, it's getting a bit crusty down here, isn't it? Oh dear, let's have a look. Yeah, that's certainly not ideal. Let's move further along to the actual jacking point. Where's it gone? There it is. You can tell this is the jacking point on this car by these little holes. Well, tiny bit crusty, but I think that is good enough to support the vehicle. I'm not going to go underneath the car anyway, so yeah, that will be fine. Okay, so let's remove the hubcap. This should just pull off. Yep, no problem. Now, remarkably, this car still appears to have its original Nissan hubcaps, and that's good going considering it's 21 years old, because these things tend to fly off down the road and get wrecked on curbs and then replaced when the cars are relatively young. Not this one though. Now I'm just going to slightly loosen these wheel nuts while the car's still on the ground, because they're probably quite tight. I might have to use quite a bit of force. I don't want to be doing that when the car is up in the air supported on this flimsy old thing. So hopefully the nuts aren't too tight. Let's have a go. Oh no, not too bad. There we go. Right, let's jack the car up, take the wheel off and have a look at those brakes.
Okay, so let's have a look at the brakes. Obvious immediately is that there's a lot of surface corrosion here all the way around the disc, but that tends to happen to cars that are parked even for a relatively short time, and it tends to clear up quite quickly through normal use, so I'm not worried about that. Also, the brake disc does appear to be in very good overall condition. There are no obvious scoring marks, and if you have a good look at the edge, if this disc was heavily worn, there'd be a very prominent and obvious lip all the way around its circumference, and there isn't on this one. The lip is very small, so this disc hasn't had a lot of use. As for the pads, well, you can see one side of them through there, but I don't think I'm going to be able to get the camera into a position to give you a good view of the meaty side, but take my word for it, there is good meat on that pad. So this car in the relatively recent past, at least in terms of mileage, has had new discs and pads at this corner, which is good. But what I will do, as the car has been sitting, is give the brake disc a good squirt of brake clean, just to remove any dust and debris. Now look how quickly this stuff evaporates. Look at that. Gone.
This cow has just subscribed to CarSpyTV.
As for the brake line, that's this one here, there are no obvious leaks. It's all dry down there, and indeed I've followed it round behind the shock absorber and up there as far as I can see, and it looks dry all the way, so happy with that. The caliper, now I don't feel inclined to take that off and have a really good look at it, because I've got no reason to believe there's a problem. It's certainly not seized on, because look, I can turn that disc with no problems whatsoever. So for this corner at least, I don't think there's any reason, at least brake wise, not to take this car out on the road. But what I will do now is repeat the inspection at the other side.
Okay, so I just repeated that inspection on the front left brake, and it's pretty much the same as over here. No major issues. Now, I'm not going to have a look at the rear brakes today for two reasons. First of all, they're drum brakes, so much more disassembly is required to inspect them properly. And secondly, somewhere buried in this old car, I've got paperwork that proves the rear brakes were inspected fairly recently by a mechanic. So, on to the next little thing. And that is the next little problem. The blower motor isn't coming on at all. Let me show you. I'll just turn on the key to accessories. There we are. Turn on the switch. And there we are. Even on full power, there is absolutely nothing, no life at all from the blower motor. Now, when I have some electrical issue like that, the first thing I like to do is check the fuse, which means I need to find the fuse.
Good news, I think I found the fuse. Now, there are two fuse boxes in this car that I'm aware of. There's one buried in the engine bay, and there's this one here, which is close to the ignition barrel. The keys are just here. So let's have a look. And on the back of this, there we are, it conveniently tells you which fuses do what. And the one we need is the blower motor, which is top left. So what I've done is I've grabbed this little circuit tester so we can check the fuse without taking it out. So I've got to turn on the ignition to accessories. There we go. Now keep an eye on this screen here. There we go. Can you see it's lit up? And if it does it on the other pin as well, yeah, which it has. So that fuse is okay, which is a little disappointing in many ways, because it means there's not going to be a simple, easy fix. Oh dear. So what's wrong then? Well, I believe there's a resistor between the switch for the blower motor and the blower motor itself, and they are known to go wrong in all kinds of cars, including the old Micras. But my gut feeling it is not the resistor, because when they go bad, I believe, you can typically turn on the blower motor to full speed, but you can't have it on, say, half speed or low. So if I had to bet, I'd say it's probably not the resistor. So that might point to the blower motor itself or some kind of electrical connection issue. Don't know, but I do know this, it won't be fixed today. I'll have to think about that one. But there is something we can usefully do. The battery in this car keeps going flat when I wouldn't really expect it to, because the battery itself isn't that old, and according to my battery analyzer it's fairly healthy. So that makes me wonder if the alternator, which is all the way down there, isn't charging the battery properly when the engine is running, and we can find out using a multimeter. So let's take a reading. The engine is off at the moment, and voltage wise the battery is reading about 12.2, 12.3 volts, something like that. Now when we start the engine, that should increase quite a bit, so let's have a go. Bear with me. Right. Well, now the engine is on, the voltage on the battery is reading just shy of 14 volts, so that suggests to me the alternator is working at least to some extent, so maybe that battery is a dud.